Scott Carson from Amusement Advantage. Welcome to the Attraction Pros COVID-19 video series. It's like all of our worlds are colliding right now. But thanks for joining us here. How have you been? What have you been up to?
Awesome. Well, good morning. Thanks, guys. It's great to be with you in a little different format than usual, but different times call for different avenues, right? So yeah, I've been up and down. I'm riding the roller coaster ride like the rest of the industry, but overall, I think I'm in a good place, and we're just trying to stay positive and look to the future as much as we can. Obviously, every day we have to dwell on the current, but looking ahead, as I think we all are trying to do in the industry.
Yeah. So you've been in the industry for a little while. Amusement Advantage is coming up on 25 years. It'll be next year. You've seen previous recessions before and previous economic impacts.
Sure.
9/11, 2008. What are maybe some parallels that you're seeing to previous economic downturns, or what's completely kind of what are we dealing with that's new that we haven't really seen before? There's some obvious answers with that, but kind of from the
Sure.
business standpoint, kind of what have you been seeing?
Yeah, obviously we went through the 2008 financial crisis, before that 9/11, and this is definitely different. But first, to talk about parallels, I think there's that initial just uncertainty, and that's a parallel and also an oddity this time, in that the uncertainty is just kind of lasting longer, certainly than 9/11. 9/11 was kind of that stop, everybody took a breath, and then every day there felt like good news after that, even if it was small. The financial crisis was tough in that it was certainly a longer thing than hopefully this will be, but it didn't have as much uncertainty. We kind of understood where we were at, and it was just how long it was going to take to get out of that. Whereas the uncertainty is, well, we don't even know when we level out, so it's hard to know when we start to climb out of it, and then we don't know what it looks like when we do climb out of it. But I think I've mentioned this before. One distinct thing that I've seen that's different is kind of the optimism here. With 2008, there was so much, yeah, we're going to come out, but when, and what does our budget look like? How long does it take? And this time, there's that sort of, we want to resume. Whereas then it was, clients were canceling service and clients were cutting back. And although everybody's done that now, it's this pause button effect, I think, whereas, it's paused. It's a momentary, let's see where we're at, but we're going to come back, and we're going to come back strong. And that optimism is really, I think, refreshing compared to, for instance, the 2008 crisis.
So Scott, how do you continue to keep that positive message going, not only for yourself, right, but for your staff and your family even?
Yeah, it's tough. I think there's kind of three distinct realms there. Obviously, yourself, family, and the coworkers, your staff, et cetera. And you've got to be positive yourself before you can genuinely relay that to your staff. The family's making it easy. My daughter the other day said that she thinks this is bringing us all together, closer. And that's awesome. We're stuck here, so to speak, all together. But there's that creativity of what are we going to fill our days with, and that sort of brings us together in a new and fun way. I wish we could do that with the staff. Our staff are all contractors, so we're always in a weird position when you talk about kind of motivation and employee relations type thing. But with the contractors, I've been trying to just share lots of information and just remind them, hey, we're going to come out of this, and we're going to be, an important player in the industry. We're going to keep providing great services for our clients. They want us, they need us. So we just have to get through this. And what are the tools I can give them? What are the suggestions I can give them? And just kind of being here to tell them we're all in it together, and hear what their pains are. I've got a scheduler whose husband is a grocery store manager, and so he's working crazy hours, and she's got all the kids at home, and she's like, wow, I'm busier than I've ever been in my life. And everybody has a unique story and a unique challenge right now. I think it's just listening and kind of trying to understand. You can't always, obviously, and then relay that optimism. We'll get through this, and maybe there'll be some great things that come out of it as well. Some new ideas, some new strategy, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and along those lines, and kind of tying into what you said, a minute ago, is kind of the importance of what we do in the industry, and certainly not turning this into a sales pitch by any means to those who are watching. But I feel like there are opportunities, for what we do from a mystery shop standpoint, of being able to think about, okay, what is it that the industry is going to look like coming out of this, and knowing that our job is evaluating and auditing and measuring how standards are taking place. Do you foresee any changes happening to the way that mystery shops are done and what's incorporated into evaluations from going forward?
Absolutely. And you touched on this in your webinar, Josh, but I think the key is we don't know what the expectations are going to be. So now more than ever, one of the things we always talk about, you guys have all heard this kind of mantra that we have, but one of the keys of the way we provide service is really getting all the details of that guest experience when the shopper goes out. And we don't always know what questions to ask, but we get a lot of feedback that's unstructured. And I think it's going to be really important for us and our clients to really look at that unstructured feedback that's coming in and be refining the evaluation tool that we're using as we go. Obviously, new expectations in terms of cleanliness and just that kind of appreciation that guests are going out there to the attractions when there's going to be a little bit of intrepidation and maybe new fears for mom turning the kids loose in the fun center of the park or whatever. So we really have to take a step back and be more in tune with not what we think is important to measure right now, but what the guests are telling us is important. And that may change a lot of kind of paradigms in terms of what do we focus on with that data and what do we do when we get that data, what's most important. So I think it's going to be a real time of just listening and being open-minded and being nimble, and how does each organization adapt to those new expectations so that the guests are happy. And obviously those first guests that come in are so critically important. They're going to spread the word. So those first couple weeks open, so critical to understand what the guests are thinking and expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Scott, I'm curious. When you talk about what the guests are thinking and expecting, we all kind of understand that there's going to be a different expectation. We may not know exactly what that is. You talked about being nimble and really listening to what the guests are expecting. In some of the other conversations I've had with people, even outside of these calls, there's some folks that are like, well, I've always done it this way. It's hard for me to change. So it's one thing for you to be nimble. The operators also have to be nimble, right? So talk to me about kind of how you might work with them to make sure that they're as nimble as they need to be in response to what data you might be giving back to them.
Yeah, I think we have a unique position. Obviously, we work with so many different attractions, and as each attraction might be getting feedback, whether it's through our services or just regular guest feedback on the internet or whatever, they're going to start to focus in on some things. But we have the ability to kind of look at all the data that we're seeing and all the conversations we're having with clients and kind of share some trending and some things that we're learning quickly. And certainly there's going to be an evolution. Different attractions are going to open at different times. I think we have that ability to kind of try to share and really help the industry understand as we reopen what is going on, what are the guests thinking, and not let any one facility maybe get too focused on their own little kind of situations, as it were, where we've got that broader picture. So that's where I think we can really add some value, and that's going to be an interesting challenge for our staff internally to kind of look at things on a more global scale and try to get that feedback to clients quicker. But I think we've all had to learn some new ways to operate, and we will continue learning new ways to operate during the pandemic. So in a sense, we've all learned how to be more nimble through this in different ways. And I think it's just kind of leveraging that and keeping that mentality going, not just opening the gates and whoo, great, we're back open, business as usual. No, there is not going to be any business as usual. We'd all like that. But the more readily we all adopt this is a new business model in a lot of ways. Let's run with that, not try to fight it and just go back to the old.
Yeah. One of the things that you've mentioned too is also the industry relations component of it, whether it's IAPA, which pretty much kind of encompasses everything that we do, or some of the smaller, more segmented ones. What are you seeing from the different associations that you're finding helpful both on the supplier side and also resources for attractions and for our clients as well?
Absolutely. We're members of a lot of associations. I think we're in a unique chance again, a unique opportunity again to kind of sit back and see what they're all doing. And the level of involvement and engagement that I think that they're each striving to do for their members is amazing. The resources they're putting out on a daily basis, and it's just evident how genuine they are about helping right now. And I think, associations, obviously they're used to, this is kind of their wheelhouse, you could say, helping everybody in times of need, and they're used to not being out there in the operational environment. They're in an administrative environment. But yeah, just the wealth of information that they're providing, and they seem to be so in tune, whether it be the small mom and pop bowling alley all the way up to the big theme parks. They've got resources that everybody can benefit from. And that's just been impressive to me. And I think it has to be a huge help for these, as a business owner, you kind of wake up each day and, okay, what's the news going to tell me today? What can I do to move us forward today? I know that that's not unique to me as a vendor or consultant. That's what I'm hearing everybody's doing. And to see that email box with all those resources early in the day from different associations, even if you're only one, you're still getting a bunch of great information, tips, suggestions, links, and that helps kind of as you navigate like the SBA loan. So much of this is new and confusing, and having those resources to help with that, I think, has to be a huge benefit to the actual attractions, as it has been to us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Scott, one of the things that didn't really change for you is because you already worked from home, right? And along with Josh and I, and
Sure.
So that really didn't change all that much. So I'm curious. So Josh and I have shared some of our sort of best practices from working from home. So I'm curious,
Sure.
what's some of your best tips for kind of having that work home life balance while you're living and working in the same spot?
The thing that's been key for me in this period is finding other projects that can really consume me, if you will, so that when I need to get away from the business and the financial aspects, and everybody's got a lot of stress with this, whether it's with layoffs or the financial piece, when do we get open, and I think those weigh much heavier now than normally. So as much as I had a good routine before, I've sort of shaken up my routine a bit to force time for other projects that really kind of clear my mind. So when I come back in the morning and I'm faced with that, like I said, every day, oh boy, what's the news today? How do we keep moving forward? I'm refreshed because I've done that project in the yard or the garage, or I've got a big project going at my parents' house right now. That kind of thing has really helped me stay fresh, where I think it takes the place of maybe the projects that we would normally be working on as a business. I think that there's a little less fun in some of the business projects we're all faced with right now. And so finding fun projects outside of your business world or whatever your normal work world is, for me at least, has been super beneficial. And it, like I said, it just refreshes me. So.
Yeah, totally. I can definitely see how that can be very beneficial, and being able to come back and be refreshed and still have the opportunity. You mentioned projects related to the business, and this is such a unique time for everyone, really, that oftentimes we can get very caught up working in our business that we don't have the opportunity to work on our business. So what have you seen as far as being able to be able to think long term when we're not so much focused on, all right, what's going on today? Because there aren't any mystery shops that are happening today.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's kind of a weird thing. You almost have to, like for me, it's sort of leave the office, go have lunch or something, and then make that choice. When I come back in the afternoon, I'm going to focus on some long-term planning, or I'm going to focus on some long-term vision stuff. And it's kind of easy to get into that once you're back, but I think you kind of need a little separation from the challenge of the here and now, which is so, there's so many unknowns, there's so many what are we going to do? You got plan A, B, C, D, E, F maybe, and you kind of have to separate that and then say, okay, let's think long-term vision. Let's say, okay, when we come back, what are some of our goals that have maybe been on the back burner recently? What are some projects that we haven't been able to work on? And then think about different resources you can leverage in this time. Obviously, everybody in this industry has some level of operational involvement. And when you take that away, there's all this free time. So I would think, for us and so many people, you've got that chance to really kind of get out of the box with some of your long-term thinking and vision and projects, and hopefully capitalize on that. I think it's hard. You kind of got to be in the right place, right frame of mind to really get some traction on that stuff. Because if you kind of get dragged back into the, gosh, when are we going to open? What's our budget going to look like? Who's going to come back after layoffs? It can be hard to take that and spin it and have that positive, forward-looking mindset. But I think it's a great opportunity to do it. You just got to find a way to kind of compartmentalize and make it happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Scott, what are some things that you have maybe been doing or adopted during this time that you might like to take forward, as we do get into our next new normal, whatever that looks like, right? Whether it's spending a little more time outside the office, whatever it is, something that you're seeing as a benefit now that you could actually parlay into something that would help you in the future.
Yeah, I think there's two key things. The projects outside of work, I think, is something I need to strive to make happen in the future. As a small business owner, it is you wear all the hats, and the phone, rings all the time, email's always there. And I think that's something that we all struggle with, work-life balance, obviously, as leaders, I think. But that's something I really struggle with, and this has taught me the value of it, or reminded me of the value of those projects. So that's the one thing definitively I know I want to take from this is set that time aside for those other projects, whatever they are, whatever feeds your soul different from work. And the second one, I think, is a new level of kind of personal engagement with some of my staff. I think this has forced some personal conversations that maybe we weren't having before, that have some real value, and really understanding the situation that everyone is in. Everyone has a totally different, unique situation. And I think that's especially true with work at home contractors like we have. I don't see them every day. I'm not always as in tune with what they're going through as I probably should be as a leader. And I think this kind of reminded me of that. And hopefully I can put some little kind of tricks and tools in place for me down the road to kind of reach out and pull them in, because as contractors, they also tend to not necessarily share as much with me. I kind of have to pull with some of these folks just because of the way our relationship works. So I think there's real value in that, and that's something I'd like to try to carry forward as well.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned also, kind of before we started talking about kind of the looking at the optimistic viewpoint of all of this, and kind of where those silver linings are. I know you've touched on it kind of a little bit, but what do you see as being, I would say, the most productive, or the biggest silver lining that would come out of this situation?
I guess the word is awareness. I think there's an awareness on everyone's part of just different relationships in life, and how quickly things can change. Obviously, none of us saw us in this position in the world right now. And I think, attractions will have a renowned sense of listen to your guests, listen to what their concerns are. And, just like I was saying, listen to the concerns of my staff. I think the awareness of the world around us and the awareness of other people's impressions, I always say perception is reality when we talk about guest experience measurement and analysis and everything we do. And that is so key. And I think as leaders, we have that phraseology, we understand that concept, but do we really spend our days making choices that 100% drive into that, or buy into that, I guess you could say? And I think this will all come out of this with a new appreciation of just being able to have the ability to go to attractions, the ability to go to work, the ability to, have the norm. But I think we'll all have a little heightened awareness of what it means to get to go do these things, what it means to be with your staff in person, all those things. And I think if we can kind of capture that and really harness it, I think, wow, attractions can provide an even higher level of service. They can really become kind of service superstars in a lot of ways, and vendors, consultants, we can all do the same for the attractions. It reminds me of 9/11, when the level of patriotism in the country was at an all-time high, and it was just that one event that obviously kind of opened our eyes and gave us a new awareness. So I think the same thing is going to happen here, and how we all choose to kind of leverage that is up to us, obviously. But I think if I had to say one word or one thing, I think that's it.
Awesome.
Very nicely said. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we really appreciate your time today and for joining us here. Any final lasting thoughts or message to the industry you'd like to share?
The only other thing I would share is I love what everybody's doing in terms of online learning and games, and it's a testament to what this industry can do in terms of providing fun. We know how to provide fun in a lot of different ways, and the online virtual experiences that so many organizations are now providing is great. It's great to see that creativity, and it's such a great way to really, I think, engage moms and families and kids and so forth. So that's fun, and I hope people are out there using it and really enjoying that. And I hope some of that continues. We don't need to let go of some of that. I think it's a great tool, and there's a lot that we can do with that moving forward, even when the gates and doors reopen.
Excellent. Well, Scott, thank you so much for your time today. We really do appreciate it. Hope you and your families stay healthy, stay sane, and get to spend quality time with the family there. So thanks again for your time, Scott.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks very much. Take care. Stay safe.